All right, thank you. So I worked for 15 years in the B2B technology business. I actually worked for information companies. I worked for Knight Ridder, which was at the time the second largest newspaper company in North America. I worked for a company called NewsEdge Corporation, which was the largest aggregator of content in the world prior to the web. So my experience was in B2B marketing and PR for content businesses, essentially my whole career. So believe it or not, I was doing social media 25 years ago because no one called it that. You know, there was no such thing as the web, but I was doing this kind of thing, creating information that helped to market companies. So in 2001, the company I was working for was acquired by Thomson Corporation. And when the company was acquired, the new bosses brought me into a room a couple months later and had me explain what I was doing. And I'm doing all this great marketing, I'm doing press releases to reach buyers, we're creating this great website, we're doing email newsletters, and they fired me. They said, we don't want to do this kind of thing, we don't want you to work here anymore. So this was in 2002. So I'm like, okay, what do I do now? So I started writing books. In 2005, I started writing my blog. And I then used the ideas that I had been doing myself and started to write and speak and teach other people how to do those things. And then in 2007, my book, The New Rules of Marketing and PR, came out, and I was lucky because it was one of the very first books that explained this new kind of marketing in a way that people really resonated with people. So the book immediately jumped to be the #1 PR book in the world, and it's been the #1 PR book on Amazon for more than 2.5 years. And it came out originally in 2007 in hardcover, and then in 2009 we did a paperback version, and in January of 2010 we did a second edition, which was I did a completely revised edition of the book, and it's been published in 24 languages.
That's a great thing.
And that's what kind of gave me the notoriety that people then asked me to come and speak like NASCOM did.
Great. Since you are an author as well as a guy who explains marketing to people, so how do you see the role of new age publishing platforms like Lulu.com?
Like which one?
Lulu.com.
Well, I think there's lots of different types of social media sites, of social networking sites, of platforms. There's literally thousands of them. And I think the ones that are successful are the ones that kind of create a new way that people can communicate. So Twitter was very successful because it was the first one for video. And so YouTube was really successful because it was the first one for video. Twitter was really successful because it was the first one that did these little small micro messages. I think Foursquare is interesting because it has a GPS component. Lulu is interesting because it allows for very small print runs of books and things like SlideShare. All of these things are new content types, the ways that they're platforms for new content types. What I think are not successful are companies that copy somebody else. Like every day I hear, not every day, frequently I hear somebody will say, oh, we're just like Twitter, but, or we're just like YouTube, but, or we're just like Facebook, but. And that never works. Because why would I want something instead of Twitter? Twitter's great for what it does. Or why would I want something other than Facebook? Because Facebook is good for what it does. So I think that the technology, the new technologies that have a new way of doing things are the ones that will be successful, not the ones that copy.
These kinds of new technologies that we are talking about are actually making print media more or less irrelevant in many terms, and print media is having a hard time finding its readers. You are a marketing guy, you are a PR, you you are consulted by people to increase your sales and all that. What would be your advice to news and print media to keep up with the new age?
Well, I think that the print media organizations that have figured out how to do the web, some of them have become quite successful. For example, the Wall Street Journal has something like 700,000 paid subscribers. They're doing something right. The other thing that I find very interesting is that there are some brand new media sites that skipped being in print altogether and are only doing it online, but still companies that need to make a profit. So there's three examples. There's Huffington Post, and I write for Huffington Post, for example. There's Politico.com, which is a political website out of the United States, and there's TMZ, which is a site for celebrity news. Now, all three of those didn't even exist 5 years ago. They're brand new, and some of them are, those guys are more successful than the print counterparts that have been around for decades. And why is that? It's because those companies understood the dynamics of the web and put their information on the web in a way that people are interested in. So I don't think print is dead. I don't think television is dead. I think there's still going to be room for newspapers, magazines. The question is, what's the right business model? The question is, how will they remain relevant? Like when I travel, I want a print newspaper. You know, so here I am in the hotel, I'm getting the India Times. I want to read it. I want the print newspaper, even though I can go online, because I like knowing what's going on locally. And that's interesting to me. Can they make a business from that? I don't know. But I don't think print is dead.